To the regular meeting of the Madera City Council. I call this meeting to order at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2001. The meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. The City Council meeting will be live streamed on the city website at www.madera.gov/live. Members of the public may participate in the meeting by meeting remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833, enter ID 965-2162-7717, hashtag followed by *9 on your phone to speak. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpubliccomment@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. Call this meeting to order. Alicia, could you please call roll call?
Mayor Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas.
I'm here.
Councilmember Gallegos.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yeah, I hear.
Councilmember Montes.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Thank you.
Could you all please stand for the invocation today, led by, oh my goodness, yeah. Nope, I got, you know what, Alicia, I pulled up the wrong one. So, yes, could you, by Priest Bahai Pritam Singh, Madera Singh Temple. This is the invocation. Thank you.
Mayor, can you hear?
Mark, could you unmute them, please? Is that Pam?
They're unmuted. They have connection issues, it looks like.
Pam?
Right now.
Greenwald? Yes, could you speak a little louder, please?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
She's mute.
She went.
Pam, it looks like you're on mute.
There we go. We can hear her again.
And we can hear you very faintly, but you are breaking up a little bit.
Now she's muted again.
Okay, how about right now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Pam, if you would like, we can do the Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe you can do it by phone.
Yeah, that will be fine. Actually, I'm going to have him say the prayer right now. I just wanted to say that thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We can hear you better now.
Okay, he's ready to start, okay?
Thank you.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਕਮਲਾਂ ਚ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਜੋਦੜੀ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਲੱਖ ਖੁਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀਆਂ ਕਰੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਅਪਾਰ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਰਹਿਮਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਨਵੇਂ ਮੇਅਰ ਬਣੇ ਸੰਤੋਖ ਗਰਸ਼ੀਆ ਅਤੇ ਸਿਟੀ ਕੌਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਸਮੂਹ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਮੇਅਰ ਬਣੇ ਹਨ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਘਰੋਂ ਘਰੋਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀਆਂ ਕਲਾ ਬਖਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਮੇਰ ਪ੍ਰਿਆਤ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਉਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵਧੀਆ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਾਉਣੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਕੌਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਸੰਤੋਸ਼ ਕਰਸੀਆ ਨਵੇਂ ਮੇਅਰ ਬਣੇ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀਆਂ ਕਲਾਂ ਬਖਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਸੋ ਇਤਨੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਭਾਣੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ.
That's the end of the ardas. Thank you so much for letting us join. Can you hear us?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Would you all please remain standing
Thank
for
you.
the? Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
Thank you. Would you all please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Pam.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Everybody salute.
Please
Oh.
remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Brother Keith Helmut.
Thank you, Mayor. Everybody salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Want to thank you. Thank you all very much for that. Both the priest, Mr. Singh, and Keith. So we will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will ask my colleagues if there are changes or modifications to the agenda. Hearing none, seeing none. I now move for the approval of the agenda.
So move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman CC Gallegos, seconded by Councilman Steve Montes. Alicia, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas,
Here.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes, present.
Final vote 6-0. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved by members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until that item is called. Comments on the items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Alicia, I don't see any public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time?
No, Mayor. None received.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now close public comment and enter into, there are no written communications. We will now move into presentations. Let me see, do we have Sarah? There we go. Hi, Sarah.
Good
Welcome.
evening.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So our data in Madera County is looking good. We're heading in the right direction. Our case rate as of Tuesday is 10.8. That's an adjusted case rate. Our testing is above the state median at this point, and that's a good sign. We need to keep testing up. It does help us move through the tiers, and of course helps us do contact tracing with those who are identified as positive. Our positivity rates, if you recall, there are 2 positivity rates. The first is the county as a whole, and that's at 4.8. That meets the requirements for the orange tier. The other is the health equity quartile. That one's at 8.1. That's in the purple tier. 8.0, or just above, is in the red. There are 2 ways in which we can move forward. The first is all 3 of those measures, case rate, county positivity, health equity quartile, all need to be in the red tier for 2 weeks in a row, and then we move. So it's reported on the second week, we move the following day. The other way that we're able to move is if the positivity rates, both positivity rates, are in the orange for 2 weeks consecutively, regardless of what the case rate is. So we're watching those things and want to, as we can, and safely. So the way that people can help us do that is by testing and, of course, reducing transmission by following all the practices we're very familiar with. I wanted to share with you results of a data report that was prepared by our epidemiologists. We looked at the 2020 death data, and in Madera County, COVID-19 was the #1 cause of death in 2020. 171 deaths were due to COVID. We understand that people do have underlying health conditions which contributed to that demise. COVID was identified on the death certificate for those individuals. The second leading cause of death was coronary heart disease. But it's really significant that COVID was #1 because if you recall, we only had deaths in COVID starting into the surge later in the year. So all of those accumulated in the second part of the year. The other thing I wanted to highlight in this report is that 13.8% of our population is identified in farming, forestry, or fishing industries. So thinking differently from the vaccine eligibility, we're talking about people who just work directly in the farm working industry, 13.8% of the population. However, farm worker deaths were 35.6% of the total deaths due to COVID. So that's why it's really important, and we have prioritized getting vaccinations out to our farm workers. So far, in terms of vaccination, Madera County has received 43,800 doses total. That's across all vaccine providers in Madera County. We have given at least, and we say at least because vaccine providers report to us on a regular basis, but not every day, 32,870. And that is to at least 22,462 people, because of course it's a 2-dose vaccine, and we always have some people that have gotten first dose and are waiting for the second. That represents 13% of the Madera County population, which is we're really proud of since we only started vaccinating in January. We know that we're still in this transition period with the Blue Shield distribution mechanism and the MyTurn system. We have added a vaccination location at our OptumServe site. So we had 2 testing sites offered through Optum at the fairgrounds. With testing need reducing, one of those have been converted to vaccination, and people who are able to access that through the MyTurn registration process. Links for our clinics in public health, as well as the link for MyTurn, are both located at our website, and I'll put that website in the chat. The eligibility is also listed at that same website. I also understand that there's a lot of questions with regards to youth sports and recreation, and there's actually 3 different guidances that touch on those things. One of them is 25 pages long, and so it could take a lot of questions to answer a lot of detailed questions. So I would direct you first to review those guidances and digest them as well as you can, and then specifically direct the questions that you'd like to have really parsed through, and the direction of the Department of Public Health, that those be sent to me so that we can review them and make sure we're giving you accurate information. It's very difficult for me to respond to those right off the cuff because it is 3 different guidances and all of them are lengthy. But I'll put those into the chat so that you're able to reference them. And we do want to provide answers to your questions as soon as possible. I'll stop there and answer as many questions as I can.
I would like to give my colleagues an opportunity if they have any questions. I don't see any hands raised at this moment. Mr. Rodriguez, Jose, Council Member Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sarah, we had missed you on the last meeting, and the question that I had posed, I think I got an answer directly from Councilwoman Gallegos, but the question that I had was in regards to the means of trying to get appointments for vaccinations when available. And some folks were having a hard time trying to get, due to lack of either resources or not being able to call quickly enough to gain an appointment for vaccination. Can you speak to that to see if are we experiencing any issues like that at this time now? I had maybe more than two folks address that it was really hard for them, and I'm not sure if it's because maybe a lack of folks answering phones, or maybe could be a combination of both resources at their home to be able to go online and get their appointments done quickly enough before it's filled.
So the fundamental answer to that question is vaccine supply. We are able to post registration and get people registered as allocation arrives, but those appointments are limited. So we understand that oftentimes people receive the text message. By the time they're able to get to it, all of the slots are filled. That's just because, frankly, a lot of people are eligible now. The way that the state established the tiers, Madera County has a lot of the most vulnerable population that have been heavily impacted by COVID. And so they're all eligible at the same time. And we have been communicating with the state the need for increased allocation so that we can adequately serve those prioritized groups. What we're being told is that allocation to the Valley is going to increase, both because of farm workers, but also on state calls. They've talked about that health priority index that they've been using at the county level. They're applying that at a state level and identifying areas of the state with more population living in areas that have a low score on the Healthy Places Index. That would prioritize Madera County for allocation. So that's the first answer. The second is that the 311 system it does have limitations in terms of the number of calls that they're able to take within a certain period of time. And I am in the process of rolling out contracts with our community-based organizations to also help register individuals that struggle due to language barriers, internet access, so that we can expand our capacity to get the most vulnerable registered as soon as possible. The other thing that we do is that we work to have registration available first for those who have trouble accessing before we just post it to the general public. So that we're giving opportunity for those slots to be filled up first by those that it would take more time to get them registered, and then open up the opportunity for others that are able to register quickly.
Thank you, Sarah. I also just had a comment or a question more so in regards to the data that you provided. So 13% of the population in Madera you mentioned was in the ag industry, but if I don't know if I got this correct, 35% of those deaths were represented in that industry. Is that correct?
I'm going to turn to the page, make sure I have it correct. So,
I think you had mentioned
13.8% of our workforce is employed in farming, forestry, or fishing industries, and 35.6% of all the deaths were farm worker deaths in 2020.
And of that, you mentioned also that 13% has been vaccinated here in the county of Madera. Does that break down as far as the percentages within that same work field or that same industry?
No. So vaccination rolled out, if you recall, first to healthcare workers, and then to age 75 and up, and then to age 65 and up. And we only have recently opened up the tier that includes farm workers that are under age 65. So that was the state prioritization that we were following. It was based on preserving our healthcare infrastructure and then targeting those who are most risk for hospitalization and death, which even within the farm worker population, age 70 or 75 and 65 and up are still our highest risk. I didn't read that part of the report, but we had more people that were at risk of hospitalization and death age 65 and up. So as we start moving through the tier 1 that includes food and ag workers, then we will be getting to the rest of that population that is certainly vulnerable to that acute illness.
Yeah, and I certainly would advocate for all folks, to get vaccinated. But I think after the statistics that you presented, it seems like a pretty high percentage of that sector of the industry has been affected the most. So I would certainly advocate that we continue to push and outreach these folks so that we can get them vaccinated, because these are the people that provide us with all the products that we normally consume on a daily basis. Not to leave out anybody else, it's in any other sector, but I mean, obviously those numbers certainly are scary, and we certainly want to reduce the amount by providing good vaccination to these folks. So thank you for all the information, sir. I really appreciate everything you do.
Yes, I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Anita Evans.
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Good evening. Just a question. I was asked, so I'm going to ask. As far as your second dosage, I guess some people are not notified, or how does that work for the notification for them to receive their second vaccination?
They are notified in several ways. They do all receive an email with a link. When they receive their first dose, they're given their vaccination card. They're also walked through the process, and every single person has an interaction in which they confirm what date is the first day in which they can get their second dose. And so they know about that date, and we're directing them to schedule on our website. There's a very clear button at the web link that I've provided, but we also email them directly that link as well. And when we monitor that list to make sure that people are registering, and if they have not registered, then we also reach out to them and get them scheduled, especially if they need support. And then any person who needs to register for their second dose can also reach out to 311 and work with the community-based organizations to get those scheduled. So that's the way it is right now. The state system called My Turn, which doesn't have the functionalities that we need right now to really target the farm worker population and things like that, and it gets really technical. But that system is set up that everybody would schedule both appointments at the very beginning. So when we transition to that, when the state gives us all the functionality we need to be able to prioritize our vulnerable populations, then second appointments will be easier. But for right now, we're using our current system in the best way we can.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I hope they were watching tonight so that they could hear it come straight from you versus me having to try to relay the message to them. So thank you very much for that.
And we really encourage people to use our community feedback form. It is the fastest way to get a response. And so I'll find the link for that before I log off, and I'll put that in the chat as well. But it's pretty easy to find. If they go to our COVID webpage, it's one of the big buttons.
Thank you very much.
I don't see any public comment or any more from my colleagues. So I will finish up this workshop with this presentation by Sarah. Thanking you very much, Sarah, for your your direction and your staffs, and that you've done a very good job, and it's a Herculean task for you to do that. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for that. And also thank you for bringing the governor to Madera, the county of Madera. He needed to see what we all are doing to get our folks vaccinated and processed. He was very impressed as I was talking to him with the layout of that you provided for folks to be able to come in, get processed, and get their vaccinations. So I just want to thank you for that. Thank you very much, Sarah. And we're going to move on unless anyone else has a comment or yourself has a comment. Okay.
Is that a wave or a question?
No, I'm just saying thank you very much. And
okay.
Thank you very much for everything you do.
It's a question, Sarah.
Oh, question. Okay.
Okay, now Cece has her hand up, so we'll have to recognize Cece after we said we were going to go done. Go ahead, Miss Councilwoman.
Sarah, when you put the links in the chat, we always can can retain them, can you also send them through an email?
Certainly.
We can access through that.
I will do that. I'll send that to Arnaldo and he can
Perfect.
get it out to everyone. Okay?
Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on to the consent calendar. Adios. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar and it will be considered separately. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on the consent calendar?
No, Mayor. I don't have anyone on the line or any emails received.
Thank you very much. I will now ask my colleagues for a motion from my colleagues, unless there's something that they also want to pull.
Move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Jose Rodriguez to approve the consent calendar. Second by Councilmember CC Gallegos. Alicia, could you call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Gallegos. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas.
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Final vote is 6-0. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for that. Item C, there are no public hearings. Item D, there are no petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinance, or agreements. We will now move on to item E, administrative reports. City contributions toward the Madera County Economic Development Commission, EDC, for fiscal year 2021-2022 in the amount of $181,749.80. I believe this report, Mr. Rodriguez, is this your report or is this Mr. Khan?
Mayor, this report is by Economic Development Commission Director Bobby Kahn. However, prior to his report, if I may preface just a couple of items. The council may recall that this item was brought before the council for discussion and direction for 2 consecutive meetings. At the last meeting, the council asked city attorney to provide a summary on the joint powers agreement that is comprised of the city of Madera, the city of Chowchilla, and the county of Madera. That summary is attached as page 14 of the staff report, where it provides a summary of the history of the JPA, and it provides some key provisions in terms of who sits on the commission, the role of the executive committee versus the commission, and the effect of the agreement and the termination provisions, and then also contributions by the parties and the timing of those. So with that being said, I'm not certain at this time if Bobby Kahn has additional information to provide that hasn't been otherwise provided to the council, or if the council would simply like to get into a Q&A or into a discussion. Obviously, I'll defer that to the mayor and the council. But with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
I would also like to ask a question. Mr. Khan, before we bring it back to public comment and the city council, do you have anything new to add?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Bobby Kahn, Executive Director, Madera County Economic Development Commission. I do have a brief report prepared for you. I know that in the previous meeting, there was a question about quantifying the value or quantifying the amount of or the value that the EDC brings to the city of Madera. So I put together a brief presentation on some just some real general estimates, and if you'd like, I can present that to you tonight.
Yes, go ahead, proceed.
Okay. Okay. As requested, there was some questions about quantifying the value of the EDC. So I put together an estimated fiscal impact report for you this evening. What I did is, instead of trying to go through a real complicated report, I just picked out 6 projects, recent projects through the last couple of years to show the fiscal impacts of just these 6 projects. Now, I want to emphasize that it's just these 6 that I'm using the numbers off of. All the other projects that we've been involved with through the years still contribute to the value, but I just wanted to keep this rather simple. So this first page just shows you the project, shows the Loves project, shows the total property tax of each one. So it shows the total property tax of $365,465, which is generated by Loves, Trampac, Deer Point, the Span Spec Building at Freedom Industrial Park, Baker, Madera, which is where Viarta is. That's the LLC that bought that center, and then Full Throttle Suspension, which is being built out by your new fire station. Now, the city does not receive all that sales tax. You receive about 14 cents on the dollar. So that would equate to $51,165 that comes to you in the form of property tax. Sales tax to the city, you can see Loves. Now, this estimate, I just want to make sure that we're perfectly clear. This is an estimate after deductions from the development agreement. So you have a development agreement with Loves, but this is the portion that is estimated that you are actually receiving to date. Trampac, Deer Point, the Span Building, the folks that are in that complex, and Full Throttle are all manufacturers. They may generate some sales tax, but very little. Baker, Madera, that would be Viarta. And so we're estimating that they would generate somewhere in the amount of $15,000. And that's the generation that hits your general fund. So the general fund impact of just these 6 projects that the Economic Development Commission has on your general fund would be $215,165. Now, if you look at the jobs created through those projects, there was just those 6 projects created approximately 422 jobs. Now, what I did is I used very low estimates on my projections. I estimated a $10 per hour wage, which is, as you know, is well below the state minimum wage at this point in time. And I also estimated a 20 working day per month, which some months are usually around 22, 23 days. And then a salary turnover of 3 times, where most economists, will tell you that your salary turnover in any community is 5 to 7 times before that dollar leaves the community. So if you look at the 422 jobs, it's at the $10 per hour, it's $1,600 per month, which generates $675,200 annually, which has a overall impact of a 3 times spend in the community of Madera would be $2,025,000. Now, adding on to that, our small business loan program that we run for the city of Madera, in the last 12 months, we have loaned $100,000 to businesses in Madera. Now, we have a lot more loans on the books and have generated more jobs, but just in the last 12 months, there's been $100,000 loaned out that created 3 new jobs. I did not include those jobs in the 422. Also, the small business pandemic grant that we monitored, or we led for the county, as reported in a previous report that I gave you, generated 113 grants just in the city of Madera that generated over $1 million in grant funds to local businesses. now the estimated, let me see if I can, okay, I'm sorry. The participant screen was taking up part of my screen, so I couldn't see it. So I apologize. Estimated impact to the general fund, we had the $215,165, which is a direct cash influx to the general fund. The salary impact to the community is $2,025,000, the small business loan, $100,000, and the grant program, just over $1 million. So the total impact on the community that we had is $3,400,000. My screen is frozen. I apologize. Can you still hear me, Mr. Mayor?
I can hear you, sir. We just don't have any movement on your presentation, but we can hear you.
Okay, here I just used another button. So I apologize on that. My screen froze on the down arrow. So anyway, again, my apologies. Other monetary impacts that we have on the community is that when these projects come in and the property tax, as you saw, the city only receives 14 cents on the dollar, thereabouts. But the schools are also receive a large share of the property tax. So they are benefiting from every project that we bring into the city of Madera, especially those that build new buildings, such as Trampact and Deer Point and even Villarta. They didn't build a new building, but they put somewhere between $3 to $5 million into that building, so that property tax will increase. So that money goes directly to the benefit of our school districts locally. And then there's the other benefit is when you bring in a new company, there's the schools can also take advantage of business education partnerships. And I know for a fact, like for Deer Point, the Deer Point group is very active in the schools, not only at the high school, but at the community college level too. They actually sponsored the ag program, the summer ag program at Madera Community College. The county also participates in the property taxes, and those go towards city services that city residents are able to take advantage of, such as libraries, the county parks, and other services. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Mr. Rodriguez, Arnoldo, was there anything else? I thought I heard you were going to say something, or our city attorney.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So what I was going to add is when Bobby's screen appeared to freeze, I was going to jump in and share my screen with Bobby's slides, which he had provided. So, and I'm not too sure if the city attorney was going to add any commentary.
I don't have anything additional to add. You have the report in front of you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything that's in the report.
I'll bring it back to my colleagues for any questions or comments. I have Mr. Council Member Steve Montes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank Bobby. I think this, at least the information that we have in front of us today was, I'll say a little, I don't want to say comprehensive, but it was a little more informative than what we had received in the past. And I think that's what we had communicated to Bobby. And I think we got that, at least we can actually see, you can put some numbers to it. I think that was one of the concerns that we had, or that I heard, right? And one of the concerns that I had as well is kind of trying to quantify that. And it isn't easy to do that, because you have to extrapolate all this data from a bunch of different sources. But I just wanted to thank Bobby for presenting that to us. And I don't know if it's going to change anybody's mind on anything today, but I think moving forward, addressing some of these issues and talking to him using our position on the commission board. I think, Mr. Mayor, you're one of the executive members. Is that correct?
Yes, I will be having my first meeting next week.
Okay. So, you know, in sharing our concerns there really matters. I think there is a benefit to being part of this JPA as clearly outlined. And it's not just the businesses that come in, but there are other ancillary impacts that are beneficial to the community. I don't know, the multiplier, I think 3 was there where they had us use for a multiplier. So, you know, every dollar generated doesn't just stay there. It generates another dollar. So those are my comments. And I'm just curious to hear what everybody else is thinking right now.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Council Member Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bobby, I did want to thank you for bringing this before us. As Councilmember Montes mentioned earlier, something that we've been long awaiting for. So moving forward, can we then expect this to be a measurement or more so quantifying? Next year, we should be able to expect with the revenues provided, maybe additional creation or additional jobs. I know that part of the agreement of the JPA is to establish industry, foster economic growth, and a lot of the times it's fostering that growth and continuing to work with those businesses that are here. But I am expecting to see additional businesses, you know, referenced in the future report, because that's how we measure where we move and how we move the needle. I think the businesses that are here have been here now for years now, and that report certainly shows some of those. Some are new, but some have been here for over 2 years, 3 years or more, and we want to see something that attracts, you know, something that can tie to those dollars as well. And that's been my concern for years now. So I do appreciate you bringing that back. I will then bring this back to staff, and I'm not sure how staff can validate or if staff has anything that they'd like to share. I know it's a recommendation that comes before us annually, but I'd like to hear what staff has to say when it comes to the EDC and the amount of money that's coming out of the general fund. Are you in agreement that this is correct? And if so, is there anything that you'd like to add? Any additional measures of performance benchmarks that you want to see? I think that's very important for this council to take into account. And again, I think for this council, we're the lead agency, and we have a member that sits on the executive committee, as Councilmember Montes had mentioned. I think we can certainly give direction to our mayor and our executive committee member to take any action on our end if we're not seeing this JPA come to fruition in a way that we wanted to develop. And that's pretty much it. I think, you know, again, you know, I'm just wanting to see more of this that we can quantify. And I thank you again, Bobby, for bringing that, but know that that'll be the measurement moving forward, is what can we see moving forward? What new businesses can we see from the amount of money that we're allocating to the EDC? And more so, you know, I'd like to see maybe considering a different, and again, this is my opinion, and this is something that I can share with our mayor and our executive committee member moving forward, how other streams of revenue can certainly help the EDC grow and maybe foster more relationships and more growth in our community. And those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I will now move on to Councilwoman Cici Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Bobby, I just want to thank you. I know it's not easy dealing with 3 different agencies and what you do, but you have brought in several developers and companies that have helped us in revenue in the city. And I thank you for that. And I know there's more to come. There's not much you can tell us because it is confidential until it's finalized. So there is some things out there that I know that are in the making that you're working on, and you cannot say much to us, and I get that. So I thank you for doing what you're doing. This council, it might want to look at a different direction, so be it, but in order to do that, we need to have different solutions. Right now, our solution is you, and we've been seeing positive things. You've showed us revenue that has come in. You've shown us jobs that have come in. I just would like one thing to look at now that the mayor is on the executive board, that some type of in-kind for the rent of your facility. So I said this last time in council that we have the John Wells Center that has a bottom floor that is empty. That would save the city dollars if you rented that from us. We could use it as in-kind towards our amount that is given to you. So if that could kind of be looked in, Mayor, now that you're on that executive board. And I know you have to give them a year advance to get out of a lease. I get that. But I'm still kind of like thinking that would help us, that would help you, and that would be a win-win for both of us. So Bobby, again, thank you for what you do. I know it's not easy. Just like Arnaldo has 7 different bosses, you have, if you counted all of us, that's a lot of bosses that are kind of directing. But thank you for advocating for the city and all that you do. And everybody, there's more to come. It's just something he can't reveal right now. So again, great job, Bobby.
Before I have a question before Anita, Councilwoman Evans wants to chime in on this question, but I want to make sure that there's a clarification if our city attorney, Hilda, if you could help us here. I just want to make sure, I believe we've discussed this in the past, but I just want to make sure that the folks in the public understand this one item under Section 4, contribution by parties. Could you just give us a rundown on that first paragraph? What they mean by the 3-year commitments, and then the 90% of the committed contributions.
It appears that the commitments are supposed, it's almost like making contributions 3 years ahead instead of year by year and doing your budget year by year. This was fashioned as 3-year commitments, not just from the city, but also from the other 2 parties to the agreement, which are the city of Chowchilla and the county. And the way it works is that the second and third years may exceed the first year's amount, but may not fall below a minimum of 90% of the committed contribution. I don't know if that's something that started out with a commission when it started, and whether it's now reverted to just a basic annual budget. From what I hear, it looks like it's just an annual budget. And so maybe Mr. Khan can expound on that. But that's basically the way I see it. But the contributions are going to be the proportionate share based on population. So the budget is created, and then it's whatever the prorated amount is for each entity that's what each entity is responsible for.
So as I've understood it, every year, well, since 2018, when I first came on board, every year we've approved the budget for the coming year. So Mr. Khan has approached us at the beginning, sometime after January, and then we do just like we're doing right now, which is approve the budget for 2021 or 21-22. But that's the way that's been the practice. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Khan?
Yes, excuse me. Your city attorney is absolutely correct about the 3-year, the way it's laid out in the JPA. Many years ago, this is pre-recession, back in like 2005, 2006, the entities, when I say entities, or I should say the parties is the way it's referred to in the JPA, did make 3-year commitments, but we would still go back every year, but they would actually make a 3-year commitment with us. But then when the recession hit, they wanted to stop making that commitment because they didn't know if they were going to be able to live up to that. So we just agreed, and we started bringing back a year by year type budget, and we've just done it like that ever since.
Thank you very much. That's an important point. Councilwoman Evans.
Okay, so thank you very much, Bobby, for all that you've done and your research and everything that you presented to us. Now, I may sound picky, but this is money that we have to make sure that it's taken care of by Madera, because this is who we're representing. Okay, the 90%, would that be 90% of the 181,749.80%, or what?
I think that based on what he said, the 90% is no longer applicable, and it's probably language that needs cleanup, and that you might want to recommend to the commission through your representative that language be modified, because in practice, it has not been something that any of the parties have been doing for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really not technically relevant at this point. All they're presenting right now is an annual budget, and the annual budget is created. The annual budget is approved by the executive committee, and I assume that that the mayor was present at the meeting, or maybe he said he was going to attend for the first time. So maybe the alternate was present when the executive committee approved the budget, because it goes to the executive committee of EDC first, and then it goes to the parties to the agreement, and then finally the entire commission approves the budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
So that begs a question, and I apologize for muddying the waters a bit more. So at this point, the city council is not obligated to a set amount, particularly regarding the 90%. Is that correct?
You're obligated to whatever your proportionate percent is on the budget that's been presented. And maybe Mr. Rodriguez can help us out. I didn't work on the math part of this analysis. I was just looking at the terms and conditions, but yes, I think that the second paragraph says the contribution of each party shall be prorated based on population. So you take the 100% of the budget based on population, you figure out what each party will have to pay.
And that's correct, Hilda. And Bobby has a specific number, but I believe based on our population, the city of Madera is 41.63% of the county population. Therefore, the city's contribution to the EDC would mirror that 41.63%.
I don't have the budget in front of me, but I don't. You said 6.3 or 3.6, but it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking. I believe it's 3.6. I'm seeing a typo here on page 7 of the report. It says 0.63, but that's probably just an inverted during this.
That was last year's percentage.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
It's confusing because it is inverted, but it just happened to. It was 41.63% last year, and it's dropped this year slightly. So it just so happens the numbers reverse. So it's 41.36.
Okay, and thank you for the clarification, Bobby.
I believe what this shows us is that we have more confusion, even up to this date, that we are meeting again for the third time regarding this issue about the city's obligations to the EDC. I'm reading this document, and it's telling me that we could lower it to 90. We could lower our commitment to 90% of the obligation, but yet if I'm hearing correctly from our city attorney, that paragraph doesn't apply anymore. And so now I'm looking at that we have an obligation that I did not consider that we were obligated to do tonight. And that's one more piece of the puzzle that disturbs me about this whole commitment by the city of Madera to the JPA.
There may be policy reasons for you not to want to move forward, but from a legal perspective, I think the language is pretty clear, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect.
No, that's fine. And that's exactly why we ask the questions. We want to know, we want to make an educated decision. We want to understand what the obligations of the city are. And if we are, in fact, are obligated to do this, which is approve the budget based upon the language that we have in front of us, then there's really nothing else that we could do, but we just need to know that.
Well, you're obligated to consider the budget that's before you. If if a majority of the city decides not to approve it, then EDC technically may not be able to operate. And it would, because there's other language in the Joint Powers Agreement that says that all of the parties must agree on the annual budget. So,
well, see, that's only one piece of it. Not approve the budget in its entirety, the 181,000. But then the other alternative that was being proposed was to cut the budget up to the 90% or down to the 90%. But what you're saying is that that's not a possibility. There's not something you could do.
what I'm saying is that you may approve the budget or not approve it, or you may approve a different budget, but approving a different budget, whether it's 90%, 95, 55%, that's technically not approving the budget. And it'll be up to the rest of the executive committee to look at it and see if they want to move or not. And it could create some stalemates.
And if I may interject for the city attorney, there is a notification deadline too. That's one of the reasons why we come to you in February, because there is a March 1st notification deadline if you want to withdraw from the JPA. And that's why we always, we at direction of the city council, we come to you first meeting of February to give you the presentation and give you the opportunity to approve the budget or to discuss the budget like we have this year, well in advance of the March 1st deadline for notification. So if you're interested in changing the JPA or withdrawing from the JPA, making amendments to the JPA, I think that that's a process that needs to take place during the next fiscal year. And I'm hoping that your city attorney has read through it close enough that she would agree with me on that point.
I have two raised hands. I will recognize, first of all, thank you for being patient, Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. One thing I was going to mention exactly what Bobby Kahn said about the March 1st deadline. The second thing I was going to mention is that I did sit on the GPA for Madera County Arts Authority, and I know this council did not agree to the JPA with Madera County and the city of Chowchilla, but it is kind of a grandfathered in agreement that the councils in the past have made, that this is something that we need in the city and that it benefits all the entities. And with that, it's kind of like we've given our word that we're going to be a part of this. And so if we were thinking to change anything, we should have changed it on the 1st. If we're thinking about amending something, we should have amended it on the 1st. If not, we're not keeping to our word. We're not honoring the GPA that we said that we would as council members or commissioners or part of the executive board. So that's just one thing I just wanted to say. Thank you.
I will note that you can approve the agreement, the annual budget as presented, and then you could still propose some amendments if you wish to amend the agreement. You could start that process sooner than the beginning of the next fiscal year, and you'll have plenty of time to do that.
Thank you, Hilda. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. And I think that question was answered now. If this council wanted to withdraw, then obviously the March 1st was the deadline. Hilda, just to reiterate on that particular section there, it also states on part 3B that any provisions of the agreement obligation to provide funding to the commission shall terminate upon withdrawal. So does that mean that if we were to consider to withdraw before March 1st, then we're not obligated to the funding as well?
Yes, because the funding would be for the following year.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. And, you know, I just want to hear from staff as far as how moving forward, how are we going to keep an eye on this? I know that when other entities or any other JPAs that we have or any other organization that's requesting some type of funding for whatever may be, whether it's animal control or whether it be the Arts Council, whatever. I mean, I'm sure that the staff is very cognizant about monies going out and how we're going to spend that wisely. So I still haven't heard from staff as far as what we're doing to keep those measures of accountability in line. And I'm not sure if that's something, I had requested that in the last session, I think from the first to second time, and I'm still requesting what measures are we going to be aligning with, especially with EDC, because this is coming from our general budget.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may respond, if that's okay to Councilmember Rodriguez?
Excuse me?
If it's appropriate for me to respond to Councilmember Rodriguez?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I believe it was at the last meeting that Bobby and I have committed to work closely. Bobby's going to be providing me monthly reports. Bobby and I meet regularly. We meet either just him and I, and oftentimes it's Bobby, myself, with Gary and Keith of our team. We're meeting with developers, and that's regularly. It feels like it happens probably every other week where we're actually sitting down with an applicant where we're talking about different types of projects. Some of the projects are relatively small, but with that being said, there are plenty of times where we're meeting with relatively large companies, very large complex projects. Some of the projects are 50,000 square feet, ranging all the way up to several 100,000 square feet. And so moving forward, I think staff has heard the council extremely clear that we'll be sitting down with Bobby and we'll be providing more regular updates. Something else, Councilmember Rodriguez, a short time ago, you had mentioned if Bobby's, and I'm paraphrasing here, if Bobby's numbers appeared accurate in terms of the property taxes and the estimated city portion of the property taxes and the sales tax. On the property taxes taxed at 1%. Of that 1%, roughly 52% of the property tax goes to the local school district. Improvement value is split between the city and the county 50-50. And so the city receives 50% of the improvement value, and that's all Bobby is calculating the 14 cents on the dollar. That's what Bobby calculates that. The second part is on the estimated sales tax. City staff does have access to the retail sales tax dollars. Unfortunately, that is not public information. We can identify it as an industry, but unfortunately, we cannot share that information publicly on specific projects. Staff, Roger and myself, do have access to that information. And the one thing that I will say is I believe Bobby's numbers on the estimated sales tax, they're probably a bit conservative. And Bobby does not have access to that data. And unfortunately, like I said, it's not public knowledge. In terms of the sales tax to the city, I believe it's probably slightly higher. And on the property tax, just simply looking at it right now, doing some of the math in my head, it appears appropriate. And the multiplier effect that Bobby had indicated, he used the number, I think you said 5 to 7%, I believe, or was it roughly the multiplier effect? And there's different, there are different economic models that use between 4 and 8%, and I've also heard 5 to 7%. So in terms of a multiplier, that's probably an appropriate multiplier, but it's debatable. Should it be 4%? Is it $4? Is it $8? But somewhere in that ballpark. I think most industry experts generally use numbers, and so those are probably appropriate as well. So hopefully that answers some of your questions, Councilmember Rodriguez. But obviously, we've heard you very loud and clear. And if this is the some of the talking points that Bobby highlighted this evening, if that's the direction from this council, and that's definitely moving forward, that's what we'll be providing, so we can attempt to quantify some of the data.
Thank you very much, Arnoldo. Did you have any more with that, Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was talking to myself there for a minute there. But yes, thank you, Arnoldo. That's exactly what I want to leave this meeting with, is that we can hold not only you accountable, but also Mr. Khan in regards to providing those measures of performance or what have you. I think it's important. I think the majority of this council at one point or another had some concerns with regards to how the reports were presented in the past. I think this should show EDC and any other organization that the city wants to quantify, wants to know where these tax dollars are going for the benefit of the taxpayer. So I think it's important that we show in a report. It's not just let me come in and this is the amount that's due, but rather here's the amount that's due, but here's what I've done and with my organization to be able to uplift this community. And then that's exactly what we're looking for. So again, I know we've been beating this dead horse for some time, but I hope that, like you said, Mr. Rodriguez, you heard us loud and clear, and we don't have to come back to this again, but rather we get the numbers that have been requested, and we can move forward. So thank you again for all your time. Again, Mr. Khan, Mr. Rodriguez, and the rest of the council. And you too, Hilda. Thank you for the your preparation of that report.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Montes, was that, did you want to ask, did you want to chime in on this again, or was this a prior raised hand?
No, I wanted to chime in again. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I wouldn't be in favor today of withdrawing or not approving. I think if we want to have discussions about changes, what EDC looks like, or amendments, I think I'm not in disagreement with that. I agree with that. I think it's our responsibility. It's our right to ask those questions and say, hey, if we're not getting exactly what we want, we have a responsibility to the community to ask those. But I think today, I think if we don't move forward, we don't approve, we'd be in a worse position than if we did move forward and approve this. And then we can hash out whatever we need to hash out, figure out what we need to figure out, be that, making an ad hoc on what we want the future of the EDC to look like, and then advocate for that, whichever way we decide is most appropriate. I think today, when I make those changes right now, basically after we've pretty much already been obligated to do so, it's going to put us in a really bad situation. I think we'd be worse off if we didn't move forward with this. So that's my comment.
Thank you very much for that. I don't see any other hands raised. So then I will bring it back to council for action.
I so move to approve E1 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the motion for the EDC approval of the budget by Councilwoman Gallegos, second by Stephen Montes. Alicia, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
We'll make it unanimous. Yes.
Final vote 6-0. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you much all for having patience with us. We will now move on to item F, council members.
Mr. Mayor, just in closing, I just wanted to thank you and the council for your support and appreciate all the questions, and it certainly doesn't faze me to have you guys continue to ask questions, and I always say we always welcome any type of constructive criticism and suggestions on how we can do better. So thank you, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and I will be at the Zoom meeting next week. I asked Lois today to send the agenda so that I could look at that prior to attending the meeting. So she said that she would send that to me.
Yeah, the agenda usually comes out on a Friday before the meeting, so
Okay.
you should receive it in a Friday email.
Thank you very much. Going back to item F, council member reports, announcements, future meeting agendas. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies and at public events, to request updates, to initiate future agenda items, and to take action on matters initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. I will now call on Council Member CC Gallegos.
I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight and staying safe and that you're here and healthy. Our numbers are going down, so I see good things happening here in the city of Madera, and hopefully we can open up some parks and have our residents out there getting some fresh air, because I know everybody's getting a little stir crazy. They're looking to bring our children back into the schools, and so they're vaccinating educators. If you have that opportunity, please get vaccinated so that we can all be safe and get back to a routine. And we see everybody in the chambers. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Council Member Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just wanted to thank staff for their work in cleaning up the Sonora Bridge. I know they've pulled out quite a bit of trash there, so appreciate them cleaning up on that. Just want to make sure that everybody stays safe. Again, Wendy, thank you again for getting back to me in regards to the question in regards to vaccinations. I know that they're becoming more readily available. And I think the day that I called you, the following day you had sent me an email that certain vaccinations were available for certain employees. So thank you for getting that to me. And I just hope that this city and this community gets these vaccinations out of the way so that we can go back to normality, because we certainly need it. Businesses need it. And I know that everyone, like Councilwoman Gallego said, is getting just a little crazy being cooped up. So hopefully we can get there pretty soon. So stay safe, be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Council Member. I will now bring it up to Council Member Steven Montes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was like say, I kind of don't mind doing the Zoom meeting, so we can do our meetings in pajamas, you know? No, just kidding. Now, but everybody stay safe. Glad to see everybody's feeling better. Glad to see you're doing better, Mayor. You know, really don't want anybody to fall ill or anything. And, you know, numbers are coming back to a place that looks like we're starting to make some good progress. So hopefully everything gets back to normal sooner rather than later. And thank you all staff. Thank you everybody, and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, sir. I appreciate your words of encouragement here. Councilwoman Anita Evans.
Yes, I want to say thank you to everyone. Thanks for all the questions tonight. Being a newbie, I still needed to, you know, get more familiarized with what's really going on. And when we were going through the issues with the Bobby Kahn situation with the EDC, I needed to know more. So I thank you for just, you know, bearing with me to ask questions. Dan Foss, thank you very much for your input and for your work over here at the Meadows. And I will be out there in the morning at 8:30. I thank you for that. And also, I wanted to see about agendizing. I have a bug. But anyway, for future street lights over on Merced, I know we need to maybe discuss it more, but I was looking and the lighting is very, very dim, and I didn't see any lights there. And I spoke with Arnaldo, so maybe we can have that go on to the calendar, the new agenda, so that we can take a look at it if possible. But other than that, I thank everybody, and just, you know, I'm learning. So what I don't know, I will ask questions. So if someone has something that they want to say, call me on the phone and tell me that I need to do something different. But I go to Arnaldo, Artemio and I do, and, you know, we're getting educated. So I thank you, and I'm looking forward to being in the chambers as well. So that's my report.
Thank you very much for that. And I just want to remind you that we're all in the process of learning. We never have everything, all the answers, and that's why we ask questions, and that's how we serve the public, because we are here to ask the hard questions, and so that our public can be served. So absolutely, thank you very much for that, Councilwoman Evans. Councilmember Artemio Villegas.
No, I wanted just have a comment on some lady had concern about this lady name is Nadine DeLay. It's complaining about when to open up the youth sport. Not exactly know. We have to wait for the government of state of California to give us okay for everything. So, and that was my comment about this lady that sent me the text, and they want to know, they want to say they're concerned about the kids have to get out and do sport. So I told them, well, as soon as we can, as soon as when the government says okay, that's what we're going for. That was my comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councilmember Artemio. Mr. Rodriguez, did you have something else? I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging that. I just want to make this quick. You know, I did say thank you to Arnoldo and his staff, but I don't say thank you enough to the rest of his staff that certainly replies to any of the emails with any concerns that certain residents have. I know we all get those calls, and we never, you know, I don't really go beyond and saying thank you, because the replies are done in a very, very quickly manner, whether it be planning, building, Gary, Director Foss, Keith, anyone in your staff, Arnoldo certainly replies, and that's a testament to what I've seen since you took ownership of your position there. But certainly we are in the business of providing service, and I can't say thank you enough, because you guys certainly do a great job in replying to those concerns and getting to them as soon as possible. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for acknowledging.
No, not a problem at all. Myself, I just want to close with, I really do appreciate the calls of support from the community, from staff during my illness, and a lot of people did not know. Some people found out, but I did not know that I had contracted COVID. My wife contracted COVID at the same time. But thank God that she was a very mild case. I was actually complaining because I had to go to the hospital for 6 days, and she was like, "Oh, I took some Tylenol and I'm fine." But I do want to acknowledge all the thanks and prayers from folks during this trying time. What I've tried to do is let people know about the importance of both vaccinating, taking the vaccine, and continuing to protect themselves and their family and friends by combating COVID in all the ways that Sarah and her staff has told us to be careful and take care of ourselves, so that we could take care of our first responders and our staff at the hospitals. And so I've tried to put it out there so that they understand that this is a very serious. Our deaths are still being, we are still having deaths in Madera County. We still have illnesses, people going down. And I just want to encourage everyone. It really is good for my heart to see that our staff is taking the vaccine, because that means that they care and that they want to make sure that our community is better. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that my plea, my ask of everybody is to take the vaccine when it's available to you, so that we could protect our friends and family. And please continue to social distance, wear a mask, don't get in large crowds, and wash your hands frequently. That's really all I have for tonight. Thank you very much. And then we'll now move on to our closed session. So Hilda, if you could please take us to the closed session if you could make the closed session announcements.
I will take you there, Mayor and Council. We have G1, Conference with Labor Negotiators under Government Code Section 5549. I think there's an extra 54957.6. Agency designated representatives Arnoldo Rodriguez and Wendy Silva, and the organizations are General Bargaining Unit, Madera Affiliated City Employees Association, Mid-Management Employee Group, Madera POA Law Enforcement Mid-Management. And G2, Conference with Legal Counsel, existing litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Josh Chavez, EAMS number ADJ128650575. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now go into closed session. Thank you all, everyone who's been involved in our city council meeting. Thank you very much, and you all have a good night.
I hereby reconvene the city council meeting. It is 8:20 p.m. Hilda, could you please give a closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor. The city council met in closed session. All members were present. There is no reportable action.
Thank you very much for that. I now call this meeting adjourned. The meeting is adjourned at 8:21. I want to thank everybody for participating. Thank you, staff and council members. And we will see you soon. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
When's our next meeting? When is our
It is March 17th, and I believe you may have a housing authority meeting prior to that.
Thank you very much. We will meet again on March 17th. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Goodbye.